Hi guys, welcome to my second CodeSpells tutorial video. In this video I'll be introducing variables, which is a very important feature in programming in general and in CodeSpells. But before I do that, I'm going to introduce a very useful block called the log block. So if I go down here to debug, this is the block that I'm going to show you. Let's delete all this stuff. What this block allows me to do is display whatever message I've typed in here. So if I write hello world, if I cast a spell, if you look in the bottom left corner of my screen, it's written out my message, hello world. If I cast again, there it is again. So I don't have to just stick with a single text message here. If I go to text and use this create text block, I can create a text message with multiple text fields. And these text fields are called strings. So if I type in hello world, what this will do is it will take these two text messages and join them together into a single text message or string and output that to my screen. So now if I cast this, it's a bit difficult to see, but you can see the resultant string is displayed on my screen. So how is this useful? Well, I don't have to just stick with strings. I can display numbers as well. So if I go down here to math and drag this number block, let me type in 42. I'm going to change this to my number is. So now what it will do is it will join this string here with this number and display the resultant string. So there you go. You can see it's displaying that. And I don't have to just stick with a single number. I can also do mathematical operations. So this block adds two numbers together. So if I put in two numbers here, 4 plus 5, what it'll do is it will calculate 4 plus 5 and store and output the result. So now if I cast this, it should say my number is 9. There we go. Okay. So why is this useful? Well, you can also print out variables using this log message block. And that's very useful when you are debugging your spell or trying to figure out why it isn't working. So what are variables then? Variables allow you to store information or data so that you can reuse that information later on in your program. To create a variable, we go down here to variables and drag the set item block. So by default the variable is called item, but I'm going to create my own one here called my number, and you can't have spaces in your variable name. So here I've created a variable called my number, and we need to set it to something initially. So I'm going to set it to the number 12. Okay, so what it'll do is it will take whatever I've plugged in here and store that in the variable called my number. So let's display that variable. So if I right click on the set my number block and go down here to create get my number, it will create this block here which allows me to refer to whatever is stored in my number. You can also get this block by going to variables, and you'll see here that it's now created these two blocks for my new variable. This one allows you to set the variable, and this one allows you to get the variable. So if I just plug this into here, what this will do is when it gets to this block, it will look at whatever value is stored in my number and it will display it on screen. So now if I cast the spell, it will show 12, which is the number currently stored in my number. I can also, again, do maths. So I can add two numbers together and store the result in my number. So if we go, what's 6 times, if I go down here I can choose the operator. So this will work out what is 6 times 7, and it will store the result in my number. So now if I cast it, it outputs the answer, which is 42. Just a note on these math operator blocks, or in fact all blocks in general, they will always work out the innermost block first. So if I were to go and delete that and place another operator block in here, let's just plug two more numbers in. Let's make that 2 plus 3. So what this will do is it will first work out this block, so 2 plus 3, which is 5, and then it will work out the outer block. So it'll be 6 times the result that has been worked out here, which is 5. And that will give us 30, and that will be stored in my number. So there you go. With variables, you don't have to just store numbers in them. You can in fact store any data type. So if I were to go down here to world object, I can store the last hit world object in that variable. I could store text in this variable just by plugging it in there. If you know about vectors, you can store vectors in there, and so you can use it for a lot of things. So now let's create a spell that actually uses a variable in it. So what the spell is going to do is, when I first cast it, the orb is going to be stationary. When I press the F key, and each time I press the F key, the orb is going to speed up. To do that, I'm going to create a variable, a new one, called speed, and this is going to store the speed of my orb. I'm going to drag this log block out the way for now. So when I first create the orb, the speed must be 0. Okay. Now when I press the F key, it needs to increase by 1. To do that, I'm going to use the onActivate event. This is a special event that activates whenever you press the activate key, which by default is F. Okay, so when I press the F key, it needs to increase this variable by 1. So I'm going to need another addition operator. And I actually need that number 1. Okay, so I need to get the value that's currently stored in here and increase it by 1. So I can just plug in this get block. So what this will do is it'll take whatever's stored in there, add 1 to it, and then store the result back in the speed block, overwriting the original value. Okay, so this is just changing my variable so far. It doesn't actually change the speed of the orb. To do that, I need to go here to orb, movement, and there's this new set orb speed block, which I'm going to drag under here. I don't want to set it to 10, I want to set it to whatever's stored in my speed variable. Okay, just to make things easier to see, I'm also going to print out the value that's stored in speed. Okay, so one last time. When I press the F key, it's going to call this onActivate event. Starting at the top, it's going to set this speed variable to whatever's stored in that speed variable plus 1, and then store the result back in this speed variable. It will then set the orb speed to whatever's stored in the speed variable, and then print out the speed as well. So initially the speed will be 0, it will then be set to 0 plus 1, and then next time I press F it'll be set to 1 plus 1, and then 2 plus 1, etc. So let's test it out. Okay, so let's find a place where you can see the text properly. So if I cast this orb, it's stationary. If I press F once, it begins to move with a speed of 1, and you can see in the bottom left corner it's printed out the speed. If I press it again, the speed increases to 2 and it goes a bit faster, and if I press it a bunch of times, it begins to speed up. See, now the speed is up to 30. And yeah, that's the spell. In the next video I'll introduce another type of variable called Boolean variables, and I'll also introduce logic statements, so if statements and Boolean operations. But that concludes my video. Thanks for watching.